Welcome to Inner Light. We are joined by Eric Burns, a sharp mind in commercial real estate who knows that success isn't built on perfection, it's built on perspectives. From reframing failures into lessons to redefining goals with clarity, Eric brings a fresh, grounded take on investing, growth, and the mindset that drives both. Welcome to the show, Eric. It's such an honor to have you.
Thank you, Anya. Yeah, great to be here. Thanks.
Yeah, so Eric, you have mentioned that failure has been one of your best teachers. Can you share a time when setback actually became a turning point in your career?
Oh, for sure. So my career started, I was a finance major in college. And then I went to firefighting. I did that for 17 years. And started with a single family rental, and then I moved to renovating duplexes, and eventually I landed in commercial real estate. So one of my failures actually was one of my first renovations on my duplex. So I I went, and my first rental went well, and I thought, well, I'll add value to my add value to a two family, and force appreciation and all that. So I went, and it seemed like a great idea. So I, bought a two family that needed a full scale renovation. So that was kind of my first, really setback that I experienced in my residential career. And the reason I say it was a setback is there was a lot of things that I didn't know going in. I learned about holding costs. I learned that the hard way. Um, you know, the loans pile up and all that. You have to make your payments and all that. And I also learned there was a lot about construction that I didn't know. So I actually kind of grew into that. And um, when it was all said and done, I realized that, my struggles renovating that first property ended up being one of the things that built my skills moving forward. So in commercial real estate, I was able to evaluate the business plan and all that, and really wrap my head around what the renovations would look like, and the timelines and the costs associated with those. So, my first struggle actually led me to one of my most valuable skill sets moving forward.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing, though. Like, how can someone recalibrate when their goals start to feel misaligned or overwhelming?
And I think when you're feeling overwhelmed, I think you really have to give yourself credit for where you've come. And there's a great book called The Gap and the Gain, and basically the gist is, you can't really evaluate yourself on where you're going, but you can look back and think, where have I come from? So I was, so my first experience with that renovation, you know, I was looking back and said, hey, I have actually come a very long way since, even getting into real estate in general. So I was doing it as a side hustle for my W-2 job. And I kind of like really didn't know what I didn't know. So I bought this rental property because, the numbers worked out a little, the numbers worked out on the back of the napkin. I knew that being student housing, that I would have, predictable vacancies and all that. So I got the keys to my single family rental, and I realized I didn't know how to be a landlord. And, I just kind of grew into that sort of stuff. And so looking back and, finishing that, going back and the struggles I was having renovating, and it was taking a lot longer than I thought it was. The cost, for the loans were kind of like eating away at my profits transparently. And, you know, but I thought, you know what? I have come a long way since, I got started with really no idea how to do this, right? So I looked at it and I said, this is actually still a good plan. And I've come a long way and I just need to see it through. And that kind of gave me the encouragement to really kind of push on and finish the project. And then I moved into doing other ones also. So, it's like, yeah, a glutton for punishment, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But that resonates. Sometimes the most successful pivot isn't outward, but inward, realigning vision with values.
For sure. Yeah. And I think it is important to give yourself credit and really limit the negative self-talk. I think for me, and I think a lot of people talk to themselves negatively because they understand their potential. They understand that, they can do better and they can, um, you know, improve and all that. But being able to improve and increase performance, it doesn't mean that you are bad in the moment. It just means you're growing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. And goal setting is a cornerstone of your approach. What's the difference between setting goals that motivate versus those that drain us?
Oh yeah. So one of the things I like to do in setting goals is really set long-term goals that seem unachievable. They seem unachievable to me. And then I set midterm goals that are a little bit of a stretch that will require really really kind of yeah, I can, can push myself to that 5-year goal. My 10-year goal seems like, you know, so unattainable. My 5-year goal seems like a stretch, but my short-term goals are very practical. They're very achievable. And so when I set a short-term goal, it, you know, if I do short-term goals all the way, my 5-year goals seem really achievable. And then your 10-year self has no idea what your 5-year self can be capable of. So my 5-year self is going to be infinitely more capable than my 10-year, than my current self. So my current self necessarily, I couldn't necessarily go out and achieve my long-term goals, but when I improve myself and I strive to be the best version of myself I can be, then fast forward in 5 years, I am infinitely more capable to achieve my long-term goals. Is kind of how I think about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And how can someone recalibrate when they're right? So, commercial real estate can be intimidating field. What are some common mistakes like new investors make that could easily be avoided?
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. One thing that people can fall in the trap of, and unfortunately, we are coming off a market correction where interest rates rose uh, very unexpectedly and very sharply, and and it was kind of one of those things that doesn't happen all the time, but it was happening coming off a very boom market and a very bullish market. So people can often be, caught up in the emotion of investing and neglect, hey, these are some risks. For example, floating rate debt turned out to be a risk that people had taken and had a problem with when interest rates rose. So being caught up in the emotion of investing, in the emotion of, hey, these returns can, there's huge upside, but when you're leveraged like that, there's also the downside. So leveraging, over leveraging can really increase the upside potential, but it also increases the risk for downside uh, risk as well. So really investing practically without the emotion is always it's easier said than done. And if, for example, everybody knows with stocks you buy low and sell high, but um, behavioral economics, looks at all this stuff is like, yeah, people don't do that. And it's because there's emotion involved in that. So when the market drops, people think, oh, I got to sell right now. And it is very reactionary, but it is just kind of a flaw of human nature, actually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And if you could give a single golden rule for first time investors, what would it be?
Well, yeah, I think the goal, I think just getting started for one, not getting caught in what they call analysis paralysis and kind of lean into the unknown, because investing is always kind of a learning experience. Um, you know, really seasoned investors are still learning the ropes and still learning lessons along the way. So just getting started, whether it's a single family rental, if you're doing residential, or investing passively for the first time, lean into the learning. Ask for help when you need it, and ask for help when you can, and just kind of get started. Not getting started will definitely, lead to what, failure, as some sort. So many people say, you know, with real estate investing, I wish I had started sooner. And I am the same way as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. Like, because wisdom often lies not in doing more, but in knowing what not to do.
Yeah. And when you learn what not to do, always communities, investor communities are a great way to learn, and also being able to ask questions. For I love when people ask questions to me, and because it gives me the chance to really explain the process. And I always say it's like, hasn't been passive investing in commercial real estate should be a positive experience. So you don't want to invest passively and have an investment you constantly have to worry about and stress about. It should be passive so you don't have to think about it. So when I was doing my single family and my duplexes, it was landlording was kind of a lifestyle. It was a job for sure, but it was kind of a lifestyle as well. So, you know, being prepared for the active role and being able to lean into the learning so you can really understand the passive roles, and you don't have to necessarily rack your brain and stress about something that should be easy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. And perspective plays a huge role in leadership and investment. How do you maintain clarity and composure when deal gets tough or markets turn uncertain?
Um, I think being able to maintain composure when markets are down is just kind of another mindset. And I like the sayings, nothing lasts forever. The good things don't last forever, and the bad things don't last forever. So having the perspective of saying, okay, not necessarily, this too shall pass, but more importantly, you need a plan to move forward. So having a plan when things go bad allows you to kind of put it in perspective. If, you know, if an investment isn't going the way you thought, maybe vacancies are a little higher than you would like or whatever. So, having a plan, okay, what are we going to do to increase the vacancies, increase the revenue, all that sort of stuff. Um, at least you have a actionable item and you can adjust to mitigate uncertain times as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. And has mindfulness or self awareness played a part in how you make high stake decisions?
I like the mindfulness of just the serenity it provides. When I am practicing mindfulness, I always come out with a clearer head, with a little bit more perspective on any problem I have, whether, a big problem or a little problem. In the grand scheme of things, it really seems, when I have perspective on life, every problem I have seems a lot more manageable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's such a valuable insight. Like, stability of mind can often create stability in business itself.
Yeah, and it's like, you know, my ideas flow so much better when I'm practicing mindfulness as well. Um, it clears me to think outside the box or anything like that. Um, if I'm stuck on a problem, I tend to think, for one, I think worst case scenario for me. I think worst case scenario, and I get stuck on that. So when I think outside the box, ideas flow, creativity flows, and a lot of times, with that perspective, with mindfulness, things seem more manageable. And when I'm being creative about the solution, then problems get solved.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. And what does success look like to you now compared to when you first started your journey?
So success when I first started was just really a side hustle when I was a fireman. And it was just kind of extra money to do anything, really. And now, what success looks like for me is really being able to take advantage of um, experiences in life and really spend time with the people I love the most and enjoy those experiences with those people. And for me, money is just freedom. So um, it's the freedom to collect those experiences and collect life and enjoy the people that you enjoy, I guess. So yeah, so money, so success is just freedom to have experiences like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And how do you balance ambition with fulfillment, like in a result driven industry?
I think ambition is needs to be, for me, I like to keep my ambition in perspective. So it's not necessarily a monetary number goal. I mean, those aren't bad things to have, and it's, a good benchmark, but I don't want to miss out on all the good things along the way. I don't want my ambition to cloud. I don't want it to take over my life and leave things on the table. I leave experiences on the table. And so always keeping in mind what is important to me in the long run, uh, tempers my ambition and keeps it a little more healthy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, beautifully said. Like, because true success, as you show, isn't about the next win, but the growth behind it.
Oh, I love that. And um, I think it was Jim Rohn, and I'm gonna mess up the quote. And but Jim Rohn says, don't set a goal for, you know, the sake of achieving a goal, basically. Set a goal for the person you have to become to achieve that goal. And so the growth is actually what the growth is what feels good about achieving the goal. And it's like the goal is the goal and there's always going to be another one. But the when you for one, I mean, I love to learn. I consider myself a lifelong learner, so always leaning into the learning experience, but also, a lot of the goals I set require resilience. It requires persistence and all that. And these are traits that I value. And so yeah, I agree with you, Ani, and I agree with Jim Rohn. It's like the growth is what really matters, and really and it's really what feels good, and it's really what goals are all about for me.
Yeah, 100%. So, what a grounded and inspiring conversation with Eric Burns. He reminds us that in a business and in life, every challenge is a classroom, every failure a map forward. So, whether you're investing in property or personal growth, remember, it's not just about assets, it's about awareness. Stay centered, stay curious, and keep your inner light burning bright.